Hello? Can anyone around here speak basketball?
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
Hello, good people of the basketball universe. This is Freddie Rivas from the Confederacy of Dunks
Basketball Podcast.
We're not like the thing that we are doing right now. That's great.
Yeah, I'm super good at this. I get giddy right away. I think it's because I said basketball world, and then I felt like I was this big, like, giant Prometheus style guy, like yelling down at all the basketball fans. Listen, thanks for tuning into this podcast. We are a hardcore Raptors fan podcast, but we also cover the NBA, and we know a lot. So there's that. You know, what I mean?
Knowledgeable people.
Yeah, we get in there. We have mostly comedians, but sometimes analysts. Who are you there, producer, sir? Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
I'm the producer, Matty D. What's going on?
Hey, you're recovering from a sickness. Is that true?
I had the flu. Yes. Sorry, I haven't gotten a flu shot yet, but I did get the flu, so that's good. And I got it on my way back from Las Vegas, which was even better on a red-eye flight. Awesome. And it's been a heck of a week recovering, but hopefully I've got it out of my system now, and I can just have a healthy winter. Okay.
Okay. Well, before we get to telling everyone, you know, where to find us and how to listen to the pod and how to support and everything.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you listened to it, but I might have to follow through on a little bit of a call out here, Matt.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to ask me.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I listened to it.
The music you use, I want to know.
Yeah.
Did we do it first, or did Conan O'Brien do it first?
Okay, so I think we did it first. Now, the funny thing about that music that, sorry for the guests.
Samson.
Yeah, so the first track that I always play with one of my stings, the...
Oh, we know it.
You know that one? You know that one? Okay, yeah. So that's like that is an iMovie track that's free. Okay, so shame on Conan, first of all, for not spending a little money on like something, you know, that you could give somebody royalties for. Like, come on, you've got money, you've got a budget. So yeah, I've been doing that since day one, and I think it does. I definitely didn't get it from that show that he does. But
listeners, if you have any issues, you want to write Conan, and you want to bring it up with Team Coco.
Yeah, bring it up with Team Coco. He's they're looking to save money, I guess. You know, that's fine. You got to save money somewhere, so why not use an iMovie music track?
So Matt, if it's cold, you know what's a basketball fan to do with their cold head? You have any ideas?
I mean, like there's different ways you can warm it. I know one way you could warm it, and that's with our Confederacy of Dunks basketball podcast toques.
That's right.
You know what?
$20 a pop. They're on sale.
They don't hit your head. They're very comfortable. You can sleep in them. Boy, like what else can you do with them, Fred?
Oh, you can shoot those basketball through a hoop. I mean, you can pick up a toque and you can throw it through a basketball hoop. And if there's no mesh, you know, that's going to fall right back down. You pick it back up.
Yeah, we didn't.
I love that we're explaining what we could use hats for to the audience. Right? It's like hard-hitting analysis here.
We should get to it, but again, people need to know.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon.
You got a Patreon page.
Please help us out. There's 4 tiers, you know, so whatever level you want to engage. My hot sauce is on the line.
That's right.
There's a bunch of different fun rewards and stuff. So, you know, have a look. That's on the website. And where can people listen to us? So, Matt, where can they subscribe? All that.
I mean, it's always easiest if you listen on your favorite podcatcher, whether that be iTunes or Stitcher or Player FM or Spotify. We're even on YouTube if you like to listen there. So you can listen at dunkspodcast.com as well. If you're old school and you want to have a little looky-loo at our website.
Okay, never say looky-loo. Never say looky-loo ever again.
Okay.
But I like that he said it with such disdain and anger. That was nice.
You're kind of mad at yourself, I think, for saying looky Lou.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get talking basketball because a million things are going on, and it's one of those episodes where it was too easy to pick the topics because it's just the NBA is 10 games in and it's absolutely popping. Let's bring on guest number 1 here. She is a very, very frequent guest of the podcast. She's hilarious. She's a great writer. She's a great stand-up. She's a good friend, and she loves Nick Nurse, and she, has usually some ideas for some marketing for Nick Nurse. So we'll see if she's got any new ones, but maybe not. Give it up at home for Cathryn Naiker. Hello, Cathryn. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me once again. I love being referred to as frequent.
Yes.
It's like a job title.
Yeah, you'll see Cathryn frequently tweeting Nick Nurse jokes.
Sadly, yes, that's 100% true.
But Nurse is like, he's just starting to build up his cult following, so I think you're in at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for everyone to be on board as long as they know I was first.
I think you were.
Yeah, we can stand witness to that.
Yeah,
we can say thanks, Matt. I love how you said that was such a somber, like a somber kind of like committed tone. So thank you.
Matt's like, we know.
Okay, let's bring on guest number 2. This dude is amazing. We have sometimes minor disagreements, sometimes major disagreements in regards to basketball.
Mostly about politics. I hate America.
Yeah. He just blanket hates America, like even the cool stuff. So
I hate the left and the right.
Okay, but this guy is absolutely one of the funniest people in the city of Toronto. He's an excellent improviser, and he's got a hell of a basketball opinion. See all of the shows he produces, see all of the shows that he does. I'm sure he'll plug what he's up to at the end of the show. I'm actually doing one of his amazing shows he puts on. I believe it's twice a year. But
once or twice a year, depending on if I feel like it. Kind of, it takes a lot of work.
Okay, so he does stuff when he feels like it. He's a rude, cool dude. Give it up at home for Matt McCready.
Yeah, feeling a little rude and a little crude.
Cool, man.
Yeah. The sound was popping in and out, so usually I do like a little song, but I was feeling not very confident in it. So.
Fair, yeah. The music sometimes pops in and out for me, so I just try and like ride it and pretend I know where it's going to be and act cool about it.
That's why you're the best, man.
Hey.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, and for listeners, I'm gonna call this Matt McCready for ease of understanding what's going on.
Yep, it's the bane of having Matt as a name. It's one of the most popular names.
Yeah.
Yep. I can't say that's the same with Freddie, although there are some Freddies out there, namely one of the coolest players of all time on our team. So, I mean,
and
that's all right.
I have one of the least cool players in NBA history, Matt Thomas. That's my name.
Okay, but we'll talk some Matt Thomas today because he's fun. I'm having a good time with Matt Thomas. But McCready, Cathryn, are you ready to talk some Raptors ball?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, Maddie, give me that Raptors sting.
Faxing beside you, Jerry.
What?
I finally broke. I made a sting from a side.
Everything about that.
All right, if you're still listening, that means
I feel like OG Ananobi's eye after that.
yeah. That if there's a track title there, it's called Brain Sludge. Like I felt like my brain was just oozing out of my ear. Is that Matt? What's going on there? Is there like an extended tugboat sound?
Yeah, well, I amped up the tugboat sound, but I also, because we have the Paging Bobby Webster one, I thought it'd be fun to fax Masai. So
Okay.
there you go. And I just, we really, really laid on the horn there. Okay. I'm going to keep upping that horn.
I'm not exactly sure what to say.
I like anyone who approaches sound design as, I'm going to double down on the stupidest things I can think of. It's great.
Yeah, we're definitely, for the Sonic fans of our podcast, Matt always delivers. Okay, let's start talking some Raptors ball. Who wants to go first? How about Cathryn?
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so I felt like a good place to start for this kind of like fun time of the year. The Raptors are 10 games in, 7-3. If you're listening to this podcast, you for sure know that in the last 4 days, or 5 days rather, we've had Kyle Lowry break his thumb. We've had Serge Ibaka severely sprain his ankle, and we've had OG's eye get scraped or poked or both. And it's opened up a lot of minutes. This is something that hasn't been the case for the Raptors, maybe in Masai's entire tenure. But, generally it's a fight for 10 minutes here, 8 minutes there, that sort of thing. Rarely do, the floodgates just open as far as minutes and opportunity. And there's been tons of good play from our young guys and recently signed vets. So, with all that preamble, Cathryn, who's making the most of their opportunity? I'm going to give you 3 options: Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Chris Boucher, or Terrence Davis.
Well, I think they're all really utilizing the opportunity pretty well. But I mean, come on, we got to go with Chris Boucher here. Like, he had some breakout moments when he really needed them. You know what I mean? Because he was getting minutes and games here and there, and we weren't seeing a ton from him. And it was kind of what does Chris Boucher really have? And then against the Lakers and then the Clippers, he really brought it. And I think out of all the other bench players, he's the one that really needed to.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair answer. He's been with the Raptors, out of those guys, I think triple the amount of time. And I think he definitely has that, he had that kind of, I don't want to say a stink on him, but it's kind of that thing where you're really good in the G League, but people don't quite see how you'll fit in the big league. He was the MVP last year of the G League and the Defensive Player of the Year. So clearly he's super talented. And I think, maybe, I'll speak for myself. The concern I had was that, if you give this guy 25 minutes, 30 minutes, among lesser talent, he can kind of just create havoc. But if you're asking him to play against, NBA quality guys and he has to do something specific, he can't really, do anything on a reliable basis. But I think he probably overheard that and then blocked LeBron twice, blocked AD, dunked on Dwight, hit some threes, locked down Montrezl Harrell. It's been pretty absurd. I think this is, I think, we're going to need some time here, but Boucher has absolutely exploded. McCready, I'll jump to you. Is Boucher also the answer for you?
Oh, yeah, Boucher is the answer for sure. I really liked what I saw out of Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, but I also think that his offensive limitations would make him easy to scheme for once teams realize, they're actually going to play this guy. Right. Whereas Boucher, I think Boucher is clearly a power forward, at this point, at least at the NBA level. There's not like his biggest problem is that he could get posted up easy. There's not too many teams that have like reserve power forwards that are going to crush Boucher in the post.
Yeah.
And I think he can kind of like his baseline skill for most things, including like putting on the floor, speed, deflections. I think he fits into Nurse's scheme of just having 5 guys who can switch and create havoc like so well. I think Boucher rocks. And Terrence Davis is doing great, but he's just I don't think he's at the level of the other two at this point, at least in terms of being able to run the offense. I think he's more of a 2-guard than a point, to be honest.
Right. I was kind of like I thought it. I guess the answer is Boucher, and it's kind of he's that much better than the other two. For me, I was kind of thinking along the lines of
Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, it's got to be Stanley. No, I was actually kind of thinking Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, because with Nurse calling him and Stanley out, so viciously, at this point in his career, he seemed like he was like drifting into make or break territory, and similarly, Stanley Johnson seems like he's that type of guy where it's kind of like if he doesn't prove himself this year, he might no longer be in the NBA. But I guess
he has a player option for next year, so he's here next year, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, he's here next year. But yeah, I think you know what I mean in terms of like some guys are, even if you look at a Melo, people just they know he has skill, but they don't really see how they can integrate him into their team. Mm-hmm. So, they just don't care. So they're like, yeah, you can't do what I need you to do. So you're out of here. And I think Rondae, like, he treated that Laker game and he treated this Clipper game like it was his last opportunity in life.
Totally. He was playing like a summer league player,
It was, he was fighting. And I also feel like another point I kind of wanted to make was, and you already jumped on it, McCready, is that Boucher, what's so exciting to me is that he kind of proved to me that, he is a power forward. And, maybe he can't exist as a center, but he was playing in lineups with Pascal and Gasol, and they looked fantastic. Mm-hmm. And also, like, I think with that amount of length, I think that's why the defense was so amazing. And then you have a guy like Rondae, who maybe, even though he's smaller, is kind of like a backup center because he's shooting so bad. So maybe, in this world of positionless basketball, maybe let's just not worry about their height so much for a second and just kind of think of Rondae as our backup center and Boucher as our backup 4. Cathryn, how's all this sitting with you?
I just want to, I guess, add that I think maybe with Boucher, like, it helped having a more like defined role within the team as opposed to just kind of being this filler guy here and there. Like, I think that probably helped him a lot too. Like, I remember I watched a bit of his post-game presser, and like he really like thanked like the coaches and everybody for like believing in him and giving him a chance, and like maybe he just like needed more time,
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. I think that's true for so many players. Mm-hmm. That all they need is, a little bit more time to breathe and create. And I was talking with my my little brother Thomas today just about basketball, because that's basically my family life. And we were just saying, this farm team Masai has built is really, really special. Like, we've seen the Spurs do it for years, where they kind of groom these fringe players. So these, Patty Mills and Danny Green and they raise these guys into these like just incredible role players. But Masai has not only done that, but he's also created, a superstar in Siakam and a guy like Fred who, for again, I'm going to speak for myself, but I feel like with Fred, more than OG or Pascal, every couple of weeks I'm like, oh, I feel like I understand his ceiling, and then he just comes out and puts on like Steph Curry like performances, or just is like 7th in the league in assists, and he just does things that you don't think he can do. But anyways, I just wanted to make that kind of side point about this Raptors farm team just being such a special, productive thing that we have.
Yeah.
Who I wish that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, when you think about that, like, bench mob a few years ago, like, most of those guys start now.
Yeah.
Like when you think about that kind of growth, it's like, oh, it wasn't just about building up bench guys. It's like it's about building all-stars, and like who else in the league is doing that?
Yeah, I know. Utah generally uses their farm system pretty well, but
Spurs.
Yeah, Spurs would be the
like Derek White's a good example of that.
Oh,
Yeah, Derek White, Bertans, I think, and
I wish the Raptors still had Jordan Lloyd. Like, man, could we use Jordan Lloyd right now? Like a backup point.
What about Bruno? I wish we still had Bruno. No, I think that was fine that Masai let him go.
You can't win
He had
them
a
all.
good little stretch at the end of last year. Bruno mania. He's all right.
He's doing fine. I think he proved that he's an NBA player. He's doing okay in Memphis, and again, he's still like 19. So, I mean, I think
Perpetually 19.
He's got time.
19.
Okay. Let's kind of jump over to. Actually, wait a second. Before we move on from this, let's all just kind of enjoy. Because my next thing I want to talk about Nick Nurse a little bit, but. This back-to-back Lakers Clippers 905 versus the contenders of the league, and just like destroying one and basically embarrassing the other, with like we watched Kawhi play all year last year. He had 9 turnovers against us, and we're talking like Rondé, Boucher, Terrence Davis, we're talking basically our Raptors 905 squad. So this is just, I think, anyone who doubted the Raptors, I think, is going to come around real quick. But
yeah, maybe. I mean, if Van Vliet keeps playing 45 minutes a game, he's going to be out in like 4 days, probably.
It's true.
Like, I'm worried.
They're definitely. I mean, I'm going to go there because. Yeah, actually, well, let's go to Nick Nurse after, because I feel like that's kind of a good lead-in. But yeah, McCready, with these 3 injuries, do you feel like these 2 LA games are kind of adrenaline, and do you think that adrenaline's going to wear off?
Like I was thinking about it today. Like when you when you have a really busy week coming up, and you like gear yourself up. It's not necessarily all bad stuff. There's good enjoyment in the week, but like you're having like a really crazy week. Like say if you're like gearing up to get married or something, and you have like the first 2 days, you like wake up in the morning and you're attacking the day and you're like into it, but eventually a crash is going to come at some point, where you're just like, I need a couple hours to kind of stare at a wall for a minute, And I'm worried that might come with the team a little bit if they're playing at the hectic schedule that they are. Like Van Vliet, I think, might be leading the league in minutes at this point. If he's not, he's close to up there. And that guy has to play so hard in order to compete at the NBA level based on his size and general athleticism. And we saw it at the end of the Clippers game. Like he had nothing left in the tank in the fourth quarter. He played 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And after a certain while, like you saw it with Norm towards the end of the game where he was playing a lot and really hard too, that's when you can really get injured as well, because your legs are feeling a little loose and things can kind of tweak in a way that that's not necessarily going to happen when your body is a little bit more fresh. So anyways, I think it could happen. I'm just worried that the amount of minutes that they're playing, that's obviously not sustainable.
Right, and I think as Raptors fans, we've been kind of blessed with very good health these past couple of years, and we haven't had to deal with compounding injury. Like what's so tough about when a guy like Lowry and Ibaka go out is that they're both eating up so many minutes that it kind of puts way more pressure on everyone else, and then all of those people are more likely to get injured, and then also freak accidents happen. All 3 of these injuries are pretty fluky. Yep. You got a sprained ankle. You got Lowry trying to swat at a ball and breaking his thumb. And then you have the claw scratching, basically like his son's eye.
Also, Pat McCaw's out too.
Pat McCaw, right? He's having like arthroscopic surgery, right, Cathryn?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah.
So how are you feeling, Cathryn? Is this kind of like, do you feel like the Raptors are running on adrenaline? I guess let me ask that first. Or is this real?
I mean, McCready kind of touched on it, but like we crashed at the end of that fourth quarter. Like we would have won that game if we had anything left. Like we were right there, like with less than 2 minutes, and we just had nothing left. And like you could tell, like shots were being missed because they were like a little short, and like they were tired. They're already tired.
Yeah, someone who's like pretty much out of shape at all moments. I recognized myself in a lot of that fourth quarter of just like short mid-range jumpers that are just going off the front of the rim. Yeah, that I see where that comes from.
Yeah, and like not to throw any. I don't mean this as like me throwing shade per se, but I feel like Marc Gasol has looked tired since the season started, so that really doesn't help. And I think like I don't necessarily think Marc Gasol needs to like change his game, but if he had more energy in his legs, and if he was like a real threat from three, that would really help space out the floor and would give us like so many more options, because like teams are just leaving him wide open. They're like daring him to take it,
and he can make them. He just has to get into like a Brook Lopez mindset of, if I'm open from three, I'm letting it go.
Yeah, like he needs to have a higher, like he doesn't need to take more threes, but he needs a higher shooting percentage from three. Like we really need that from him.
Yeah, I think like, so I'm just looking at it now. So he's shooting 38% from three on the year, which is, above league average. But I think for me, it's about, he's got to shoot threes way more often. Like, maybe he'll never become like a Splash Mountain Brook Lopez guy. And I think that, again, anyone who listens to this podcast knows I'm a pretty big Gasol stan. And I think that stuff like when he gets the ball at the top and swings it, and then there's another pass and he doesn't get the Gretzky assists, those are things that are like, he just doesn't care about those kind of stats, and that's okay.
I'm glad he doesn't care about stats, because if he saw his stat line right now, he would be suicidal if he did.
Oh yeah, no, but he's looking at the 7-3. And anyone who knows Gasol knows he's looking at the 7-3. He knows he's the vet on the team. He's coaching these guys up. He's doing the push ahead pass that Lowry does. He's kind of doing those in-game things where you're not going to get a stat for making a guy dribble it off his foot and out of bounds, and then you get the team back, or you get the ball back. But
totally. I agree though, but this team is so low on finishers though that I'm with you, Freddie, in that when the opportunity, if he's open, he has to take it.
And I've been saying this a bunch, but I think not just at the 3-point line. I mean, I didn't watch.
He's shooting 32% from two this year, so
that's abysmal. So I think, and
with so many injuries, like we really need him to score.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that we would get some version of maybe, a mix of what he was in the playoffs and then what he was, for Memphis last year, averaging like 23 points a game. Or whatever it was.
15.
Oh, sorry. Is that his whole year average, or for just
that was with Memphis last year? It was 15 points, and then in Toronto it was 9, and this year it's 6.5.
Right.
Yeah, like we need Gasol to average at least like 10 points a game, which I think is realistic.
See, I actually don't, and I don't think we should want that, because I think he's 34 years old and he's kind of a defensive specialist.
But even with all these injuries, with the state of things right now,
I think it would be awesome. But I think that in reality, he doesn't really. It's like he's not really give him the ball and let's score type of guy anymore. And I think that if he was, maybe he would show some glimpses of that. But when even you can kind of tell when he decides, okay, I'm going to try and score. And it looks fairly heinous. When he decides I'm going to try and score, it's usually a pretty bad turnover, or it's an uncharacteristic play. I think what's his value on the team right now is kind of like this, like on the floor coach guy. But I think just to your point, to Gasol in general, and like him being as Zach Lowe says, a persnickety guy that kind of like demands the game be played in a certain way. It's like, that's all well and good, but a bucket's a bucket. And there's just times where we're hurting and we need, yeah, we need him to shoot more, I think is probably the biggest thing, and maybe never do his fadeaway thing again.
What do you think his value kind of is at this point? Because I feel like he's kind of like Boucher in that he's kind of like the opposite of Boucher in a way. Because Boucher does a lot of things badly that are really noticeable and coaches hate. Like he'll take ridiculous shots, or he'll just get destroyed by muscle in the point. Or in the paint, sorry. Whereas like Gasol, the things that he doesn't do are kind of like I don't know, just less frowned upon. Like he never will get a loose ball. He'll never like crash the offensive glass and get something. He'll never like push in transit. Like he'll throw outlet passes, but he'll never run in transition, right? So I'm just wondering, like, those are pretty decent negatives for a team that can play with the athletic mania that this team can play. So I'm just wondering, like, what is Boucher's value? Like, where is he? Like, on the scale of like centers in the NBA, is he like in the 40s in terms of value?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, these two games aside, in my mind, he was like, I would say his value was like a 0.5 out of 10. You know, but then with these two games, he's kind of like, hold on a second, maybe I'm an 8 out of 10. So I think we kind of need to see more from Boucher, and you know, he's kind of doing it all. He's hitting threes. He's a help. He's blocking as a help defender. I think what's known about him is that he's fairly weak. He's not a good rebounder. And he's generally not
some pretty decent boards in these games, though, recently.
Totally, and I think that I mean that was the book on him. That, you know, it doesn't mean he can't change that, because he's how old is he? I think he's like
25 or 26. He's older than you think.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who is older than you think. Yeah, he's 1993. What's that? That's
26.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel.
So I mean, you know, that's not old or anything like that, but it's funny thinking about him and Gasol as being kind of like these opposites. Like he's kind of like the speed that Gasol he runs as fast as Gasol thinks, if that makes sense. And the opposite is true as well, I think.
Does Gasol run as fast as Joey Graham thinks?
Gasol runs as fast as, I think, like who's the Dr. Manhattan guy who, you know, in the movie Watchmen, he goes to that planet and just kind of like sits there calmly and devises a plan, and you know, he's kind of comfortable at the end of the earth, but he's just hanging out on a cloud. That's what Gasol does.
Great.
Okay, let's do this last kind of Raptor thing, and let's just give some praise to Nick Nurse. So I feel like I have a lot of nice things to say about Nick Nurse, but Cathryn, you are the Nick Nurse expert and chief kind of like fan, so I'll throw it to you first.
I always have nice things to say about Nick Nurse. Well, I don't have to go first. I'm kind of curious what you guys are going to say.
McCready, do you got anything nice to say about Nick Nurse?
I have tons of nice things to say about Nick Nurse. Like, putting aside my worries that he's kind of driving the players into the ground, I think he goes to the zone at the perfect time a lot of the times. I think his like out of bounds plays are great. I think he's really kind of like, the one thing I really liked about what he did.
His 3-2 zone in the Lakers was fantastic. Sorry.
Yeah, I loved what he did with the Lakers, because the Lakers were really like overwhelming the Raptors with just brute force, because they're such a huge team. They're like, maybe Philly's bigger, but if not them, then the Lakers are the biggest team in the league.
The Lakers are huge. It's crazy.
So he just put out like all these huge guys, you know, like he even dusted off Stanley Johnson for a couple minutes to just like attack them with like size amongst every single position. It was really like interesting and cool. I liked it.
I think that's a great point. And I mean, obviously he kind of showed out his box and one in the finals, but that was a trend all throughout the year. Last year was coaches kind of busting out these unique and interesting zones at different times, because it was kind of like a response to the motion Golden State Warriors. And then also, you know, if you weren't in an iso ball scenario, all these teams are kind of jacking threes, that the whole league is kind of having to flash the odd zone just to kind of, break teams' offense down every once in a while. What I'm going to say about Nick Nurse, though, is that I feel like I've had a lot of natural doubt with Nick. And I think that it's always wonderful to see coaches in a bunch of different scenarios. That's one of the reasons that Eric Spoelstra is always in my top list of coaches, because he's excelled at the highest levels with the best players. He's also gotten a ton out of okay players, and then now you see his team's still not very good, but he got a Jimmy Butler, an alpha kind of guy, and the Heat look incredible. And I think that it was too hard to tell from FIBA, right? Because the talent drop off was immense, and it was kind of such a unraveling joke of a summer for Team Canada.
It was kind of interesting that Boucher's carved out a spot with the Raptors, because Nurse was pissed at Boucher for dropping out of Team Canada. There was legitimate major problems between the two of them.
Well, I think when they sold Nurse on the job, they weren't like, hey, so everyone's slowly going to leave and you're going to look like a fool. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what you want to do in your summer after one of the most grueling years of your entire life?
Yeah, but that is what he did, but just kind of to his credit, I think that I'm here for all of the running our players into the ground criticism. That's my biggest criticism of Mike D'Antoni as well. It's playing for the race and not the marathon. And what's so special about what the Raptors did last year, is partially imposed by Kawhi and partially a holdover from the insane depth of the 59 win team and the bench mob and all that. But he really experimented and tried a lot. And this season, I think he wanted to get a couple wins under his belt, and he did. And I think that the injuries that have happened are not really in relation to being overworked. But anyways, that it's funny. I my only goal was to say something nice about Nurse, and I've stumbled into a criticism. So sorry.
He does
everybody.
great in that McDonald's commercial,
Holy Christ.
He's such a top-notch commercial actor.
He doesn't look like an NBA head coach, but he looks perfect as a McDonald's manager.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Okay, sorry. Here's my Nick Nurse nice thing. He has been crazy good in a bunch of different scenarios in the course of 4 or 5 months. I'm just all on board with Nick. I was even criticizing him being tough on Stanley and Rondé, and clearly I am super duper wrong, because Rondé was hella motivated to come in and just crush it. And yeah, the big lineup with Boucher. Nurse is really, he's good. He seems to be good with players and with tactics, and he just seems like a brilliant coach, honestly. Okay, Cathryn. Sorry, everybody.
Where do I start? First of all, Nick Nurse is very hot, both as a coach and a McDonald's man.
Oh yeah, baby.
Does it for me in either outfit, frankly. So there's one nice thing.
Two of the sexiest uniforms in all of humanity, really.
Yeah, both involve a collared shirt. There you go. I think in terms of him running players into the ground, in all fairness, last night's game was against the Clippers. It's against Kawhi Leonard. There's a lot of eyes on that game, and I think even the players themselves really wanted to win that game. So I don't think anybody's going to be mad at that. But I think if he keeps pushing them going forward, then obviously it will become a problem, whether he decides it is in advance or not. It's like a matter of science, basically. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes against Portland and everything after that. And I don't know how long OG's out. We just know he's out the next game.
And let's just all kind of talk about the job that the Raptors and Nick Nurse did on Kawhi Leonard. We had Kawhi last year. We saw who Kawhi is and what he can do. What even was that?
Kawhi's
turnovers?
worst game maybe last year for the Raptors was his first game against the Spurs. And that's what I was thinking of watching that game. Like maybe he just gets like kind of shell-shocked by playing his old team. Or maybe he's somebody that if you have him on your team, you can scheme against him quite easily. Like you know his weaknesses.
But that seems to not work.
It was the same. Sorry, I just wanted to add that it was the same with Danny Green. Danny Green had 0 points against us, against the Lakers, and it was the same when he was with us and faced San Antonio.
Oh, okay. There's some. What is this? This is some weird alternate, version of like it gets in the same universe as the Ewing theory, but it's kind of like.
Yeah, maybe Alex McKechnie gets like voodoo dolls or something of players after they leave, and he could just spike them in their shooting hand. Or
and we should talk about Kawhi a little bit. Did anyone have any feelings? Watching Kawhi come. I thought it was nice to. I thought his post game kind of Clippers comment was really nice, and just how much he is tight with the guys off the court and on the court, and he had such a wonderful time in Toronto. Like it was pretty feel goody, I thought.
Totally. I mean, to me, it's like, look at what's going on with Kawhi's family, and he just wanted to be near his family, So it's like, I don't blame the guy for leaving. How can you? I don't know. He played his heart out when he was with the team, and now he's gone, and I'm happy for him, and it was nice to see him, and I'm glad that he played so badly against the team.
Me too. I am really glad that he played so poorly against us, and there was he's so good. There was a small part of me that was thinking, are you doing this on purpose?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Doc Rivers after the game last night said he was very dismissive about the Raptors' effort, and he praised Kawhi's performance as almost a triple-double, which it technically is, but we know it's not the game he normally has.
It's almost like a quadruple-double if you count his turnovers,
Yeah. And he was like, they're just gonna trap him all game, okay. And it's like, all right, you pretend that didn't work, and now watch the rest of the league do that against Kawhi every game now that they saw what works.
My biggest
that'll work until they get Paul George back, though, because that might not be as good a strategy once you got George out there.
Right, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, or it's kind of like, hey, Kawhi's still a better scorer than George. You would still rather someone else score than him. I don't know. I guess it depends how deadly George is and how quickly he kind of can explode. He's coming back though, I think on Thursday against the Pelicans, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be, fairly required viewing for all NBA fans, because this is a team that has a lot going for it, and this is kind of like its final piece, unless they make a trade or something like that. So it's kind of like their full iteration. So I'm pretty excited to see how good they can be. I mean, I'll tell you what, watching this game, this last game against them, I am absolutely not scared, because they can add Paul George and we'll add OG, Kyle, and Serge. Yeah. So I think the Raptors are just a contender is what's going on.
What did the Clippers shoot from three in that game though? It was
I think it was 8 for 35.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty bad. That's probably not going to happen every time.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of it's one of those things, like you just got to play who's out in front of you. And I mean, I guess if we have Boucher, is anyone ever going to shoot well against us again?
I mean, right? I guess they were missing a lot of wide open threes, and I'm just curious if you have George out there, how many of those are going to go down? You know what I mean?
No, yeah, for sure. I definitely do not want to get trapped on the side of arguing that the Clippers will somehow not be better with George. But I mean, if we're just thinking about last night, we're one of the most injury riddled teams in the league on a second night of a back-to-back where we beat the best team in the league. And we, made Kawhi play his worst game all season and took them to the last 2 minutes on their court after they had 3 days rest. So, I mean, pretty impressive play. And if you're a Raptor fan, so far there's no team in the NBA that you should be even remotely scared of, I don't think.
Remotely scared of.
The only
respect. You respect everybody, but
Totally.
I have a feeling that neither team scouted us seriously. That's just a hunch I have. I have no proof of that, but especially the Lakers, like maybe the Clippers more after they saw we beat the Lakers, but I don't think the Lakers even looked at anyone on our team beyond the starting lineup in their scouting reports.
And how do you scout a team that doesn't exist? This team never really played together beforehand,
Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure hoping... like Frank Vogel was like on the bench. He just like didn't even know Chris Boucher's name. Like he just didn't even know his name.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going at with my question of like adrenaline wearing off, because like who remembers the 3 weeks where everyone was like, the Wizards are better without John Wall.
Yeah.
And then immediately it was like, obviously not. John Wall is incredible and Satoransky is not. and I think that's kind of a thing that happens in the NBA. And when people get to scout, Boucher and scout Terrence Davis and scout Rondé. Well, I mean, Rondé has existed for a while, but okay. Before we move on, actually, wait, no. I was going to ask you guys if you had any more Raptor things before we move on.
No, Matt Thomas. Are we going to talk about him quickly, or?
Okay, let's give Matt Thomas some love. Okay, I'm giddy when this guy's on the court, and I'm not trying to mock him. I just think it's always going to go in.
I think he could win the 3-point contest. I think I look at him on the court, and he's bad defensively, and he's so small, but like his release is one of the best releases I've ever seen. It looks so good.
He makes Jason Capono look like shit.
Whoa! He did ever fear Jason Capono in his life.
He wouldn't remotely fear Jason Capono in any way. No, it's like I think what's awesome about Matt Thomas is he can also move the ball. And there's a couple times like it looks weird, but he can pump fake and kind of like move in from the line.
Have any of us ever seen Jason Capono dribble? We never seen that.
Nah, man.
I don't think so.
I like calling Matt Thomas the Hitman, like Bret Hart, even though there's nothing really like him. But like when he hits a shot, he screams, "The Hitman!" I get a lot of joy out of that. No, and I know this won't catch on, but trust me, if you try it at home, it'll feel good.
Folks, listen to McCready. I'm going to do that from now on because I often watch the games by myself, and that's funny. I'm going to say Hitman.
I have another one.
Okay.
Raptors assistant, Nate, is it Bjorgren? Is that how you say his last name?
Nate Bjork. Yeah, I think it's Nate Bjorkgren.
I want to call him the Business.
Ooh.
I'm in favor of almost anyone getting the nickname the Business. So
by the way,
because he's all business. I mean,
Cathryn,
when everyone was hugging Nick Nurse when he finally won that coach's challenge, like he was the only one still trying to be in the game.
Cathryn, I'm not going to agree with you. I'm going to go even further and say that Nate looks like full business because he kind of looks like I've never played the game, but that video game Hitman. It's like it's a game where you, I guess, kill people as a hitman. Anyways, that guy looks like Nate. That's what I'm trying to say.
I have to Google this.
Not to be confused with Matt saying hitman for when Matt Thomas hits threes. Although that is pretty confusing. Okay, let's move on to some. Yeah, it's fairly confusing. Sorry, everybody. Let's move on to some NBA stuff.
Oh my God! Sorry, I just Googled it. Yeah, definitely.
What? Like he looks like Hitman, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Because he definitely doesn't look like Mr. Clean. Like he looks like way sexier. Okay.
Way sexier, Mr. Clean.
You better believe it. Matt Duncan, if you're still there, would you give me my NBA sting?
Raptors fans.
What the hell? Okay.
Oh man, that was perfect.
If you didn't enjoy, kind of us rambling about basketball and a bunch of side tangents. I do hope you enjoyed Matt's terrifying sound effects that are basically like just layered, kind of like Kusama Infinity Mirror inside jokes, but like sound effects.
Yeah,
sometimes I'd like to imagine what dubstep would sound like to someone who was born in 1850, and I think it's something like that.
Matt, I feel like you walk around the city just like hearing subsonic sounds and recording them for our podcast.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
No problem.
Okay. Let's play a game I made up, which, isn't very clear. Classic Freddy style. Classic Freddy style.
Yeah, pretty on brand.
So Marry, Fuck, Kill. Everyone knows that famous game. And I'm sure you also know the famous game Dunk, Pass, Turnover. Well, if you don't, dunk is like, I guess, fuck. Okay, listen, it runs out real quick because it just, pass and turnover are both kind of not great, as McCready let me know. But what I'm going for here is I'm gonna give these 3 teams, and they have to tell me if they're 3 teams that are all a little bit of a surprise in a different way, and they're the Mavericks, the Timberwolves, and the Suns. And Cathryn, McCready, I want to know who you think is going to be even better than they are now at the end of the season. Who's going to kind of hang out at the same spot, and then who is going to, like, who's the pretender of the 3? And obviously the answer might be that they're all pretenders or whatever, but play the game, okay? McCready, I'm going to start with you.
Cool. I think they might all be doing better than how they'll do at the end. But if I had to rank them, I would put Dallas in the dunk seat. Maybe I'm thinking either Dallas or Minnie. I'm worried about Dallas and Porzingis. Porzingis always seems to fall off within like the first 3 or 4 months of the season. He's actually not starting super great, but they have a lot of depth, so I'm kind of going with them a little bit. I also think that like DeLon's been underrated his whole career. I think Seth Curry's been very underrated his whole career. I think Portland's missing Seth Curry a lot. Yeah, and I think like Minnie, I'm worried Covington seems to get injured a lot, and I don't know how great their depth is. And I guess I'll put Phoenix in the turnover, even though I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like think about all those teams in kind of the same little boat, It's hard to say. So I guess I'll put them in the turnover, although I don't feel great about it, just because I like a lot of their players.
Fair. I'll throw my opinions out here, and then I'll go to you, Cathryn. So I'm gonna actually pick the Timberwolves as the dunk team. Ooh. I think that Towns is just very, very for real, and he's absolutely one of the best players in the NBA. And I think that the surrounding parts are going to be okay enough. Wiggins is going to become, quietly less of a joke, but still not very good, but like okay. Robert Covington, I think, is really helping them. And it seems like they have a good chemistry with Ryan Saunders. And then my kind of like hang out at the same spot team is Dallas. I feel like, Doncic will kind of continue kind of just being awesome on offense, and they'll be a pretty solid offensive team. And I'm kind of with you on Porzingis. I think that not only has he struggled a little bit, he is not really the reason that Dallas is like doing well. Like he kind of is still pretty good, but I think it's a Carlisle and kind of some of their parts and Doncic's offense thing. Although I do think they're a bit too reliant on Doncic, and I think
I love it when they play. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say I would expect him. In the same way that we expect Fred and Pascal to get tired, I would definitely expect Doncic to get more tired as the season goes along. I think he doesn't have enough help.
Totally. He does seem to get better,
Matt?
though, as time goes on, like Doncic.
Oh, my God.
Like, it seems like he just, like, month by month, he shows improvement. So I'm curious whether that's going to continue or not. But what I was originally going to say is I really love it when Dallas plays Boban and Porzingis together, just because it's just the tallest team, the tallest front court I've ever seen in the NBA.
Yeah, and I was gonna like jump on that point when we were talking about the Lakers and Philly, but I made a prediction in the offseason, and I think it's right. I think big ball isn't back, but there are no teams that have 5 spacers. There are no Golden State teams, so more of big ball's back and more bully ball is back. I just think it looks different, but lots of teams are throwing out just giants. And I think it's pretty fun to watch. Okay, Cathryn, what do you think of these 3 teams?
I already forgot how the terms work in the game.
Yeah, that's very, very fair because the game
turnover, technical foul, I think is what they are.
Okay, so dunk team, as in team I think will improve, is Minnesota. I also think wow, Cat. I had a brain fart there for a second. Is the real deal. And also, like, in the last 24 hours, people have been talking about how Wiggins has gotten better. So, like, maybe that's not just one game. Hopefully, as a Canadian, I'm really rooting for him and hoping that's not just one good Wiggins game, but hopefully more. My team that I think will stay the same is what is that a turnover? What's that?
The same team is a pass team.
Oh, that's a pass. Okay, so my pass team is Phoenix, just by default.
Which player on Phoenix has surprised you the most this season?
I don't know more than one player.
Okay, well, sorry for just putting you on the spot so much there.
No, that's why I said by default, because I'm like, they haven't really given me a reason to think that they're going to be more than what they are, because they haven't popped into my peripheral by being good. Yeah. And my team that I think will get worse is Dallas. So basically, Kristaps.
We all had different ones.
Yeah, so I mean, it's early in the season, so there's that, and I also don't know nothing about Phoenix, so there's also that.
Don't know nothing about Phoenix is a wonderful phrase that Arizonians should all embrace.
Yeah, quote me. Also, okay, so like Kristaps Porzingis has had a couple really bad games, like the last one against the Celtics. A friend of mine was messaging me this because he's in his fantasy league, and then I Googled it, but he was like 1 for 11 against the Celtics.
Ooh.
And scored 4 points, and it's like I mean, that's just one game, but he just has like a history of kind of dropping off, like you said, and low key, like I know how like when the Knicks traded him, it was all like, oh well, we know like he didn't want to stay, blah blah, but I also think they were like, we don't want to invest in this guy even if he changes his mind, like he's not worth like a max contract,
right? Like they don't trust his body.
Yeah
I mean, I was just listening to, I didn't finish it, but I was just listening to Rick Carlisle on the Low Post, and he was kind of talking about, he wasn't being super kind or complimentary about Porzingis. I mean, he didn't go out of his way to be like, oh yeah, everything's working great. Which coaches usually do, I find. But he kind of talked about how because of the timing of Porzingis' injury and how New York handled it, he actually went about 18 months without any like on-court action, which generally never happens for a player in their career. And Carlisle was saying just that he's never seen anything like that. So that's kind of, if you think about someone's like the arc of their whole career, that's probably pretty bad, right?
Totally. He's like one thing that I think gets overlooked with Porzingis is what he's like one of the, I don't know, maybe top 10 best rim protectors in the league, which I'm sure has helped their defense a lot. It doesn't necessarily show up on the box score. That's all.
Right. That's fair.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like obviously taking so much time off, like I'm sure there's just like a lot of rust, like mental.
Yeah, and can we just like, I mean, everyone here knows I hate Boston, but can we just like pour one out for Gordon Hayward? Like I know it's just a hand injury and it's not like a structural thing, but I was like I'm not happy that Boston's doing well, but they are doing well, and I'm not going to deny it, and they also look pretty good, I think. But hey, like Hayward having,
I feel like they look much better than the Raptors. No, I just said that to kill you, Freddie. That's all.
Oh, that did kill me. I almost came firing back, but at the same time, I'm like, listen, I don't want to be a hardcore homer. Like the Celtics do look good. Their net rating's good. Everything kind of checks out. Like they're looking, pretty decent. I feel like.
No, we know your triggers.
Yeah.
Freddie, did you know that Dwayne Casey's a bad coach?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I have pretty obvious triggers by this point.
Hey, Freddie, did you know that hockey's better than basketball in general?
Oh, okay. Let's literally go to Gabby's and sort this out with our tips.
Shout out to Gabby's, worst food in the world.
Shout out to Boston, famous for pizza. That's why we got Boston pizza here in Ontario. Okay. I like doing doing narrative stuff. Cathryn, actually, I feel like I keep throwing to you first. So let me go to you, McCready. What's the worst narrative so far? It could be one that was never true and kind of continues, or one that's starting. Like, just go whatever way you want with it.
Totally. I don't follow narratives as much as you, Freddie. I feel like your following of narratives brings you a lot of basketball despair. And I encourage you to avoid the narratives as much as possible, just for your own sense of well-being.
Oh my God, that's a good advice.
Honestly, man, like, so I think the reason me and you feud so much is because you come so hard against narratives I've never heard of before, and I'm like, where is this coming from?
Yeah, I'm
like, you're insane, Freddie.
I'm like turning you into like all of the people I want to like dress down at the Ringer, and like Ben Golliver and like Kevin Arnovitz.
Oh,
like,
totally.
Me and you are going to be fighting in an alley, and I'm just going to be like, it's me and you, Arnovitz. And you're going to be like, whoa, I'm not Arnovitz.
Yeah, I only listen to like computers about basketball mostly, like Danny LaRue and like Duncan and Hollinger and stuff. So I don't hear the narrative stuff. I guess maybe the narrative that kind of bugged me so much is how like the whole Hong Kong thing just went away pretty quickly, and no players really stood up for it, which is I found kind of surprising. Like Shaq was like maybe the most outspoken person about this. And I guess like, everyone's trying to look out for their interests in China and everything. And I understand like, being self-preserved, but when you're like playing a sport, you're kind of like, I don't know, like no one's going to like fire, Kyle Lowry or anyone like that for speaking out on this situation, because they're valuable in terms of their on-court performance. So I was just like, I don't know. I was kind of like, I wish there was a little bit more support there. That's all.
I think that's very fair.
Sorry for going for a less fun answer. I could just say like a more fun one, like Mike Woodson's beard, maybe. Like, I don't know, like.
Yeah, that's a big narrative. See, now you're in my wheelhouse. That's pissing me off, man. No, but it's a good point, and I think, it's kind of frustrating when something like that kind of fades away clearly unresolved. Mm-hmm. I felt that way about the Luke Walton scenario early in the summer, where that's not gone, but there's this kind of like, oh, we gotta keep going with the basketball, and it's like, well, sure, but also don't stop figuring out the thing.
Totally. If Luke Walton was named like. If the franchises were reversed and Luke Walton was named Raptors head coach, I would not be a Raptors fan that season. I would not be a fan of the team until that guy was gone, Like, and for, I guess, the listeners who don't know this, Luke Walton is involved in in a sexual harassment suit from his days with the Lakers. But yeah, it's disappointing and also like he hasn't proven himself to be a good coach either. Like he's just like, I don't know. It's just I'm really glad that Sacramento's struggling so much this season. I'm not happy about Fox's injury, but man, there's few teams in the league that I'm more happy that are doing badly than Luke Walton's Sacramento Kings.
Fair. And just back to your kind of, no players being super outspoken. I think it's kind of this odd time where, player power is such a big kind of talking point, but the reality
there's
is
a narrative I hate. Player empowerment, like it's something new.
I mean, I think it's less true than anyone thinks it is. I mean, I just listened to the whole Ramona Shelburne, Sterling affairs, and the idea that the Clippers, lots of NBA players were frustrated that the Clippers played that game. And I don't really think that I understood the pressure that the players on the Clippers were under at that time from everyone. And I think that's kind of the scenario here. So they threw out their player ambassador, LeBron. All the owners hid behind him. All the players kind of hid behind him. And he made that statement, which is just so not good about Morey. So it kind of left this whole situation in this gross place. And I think also China wants this to go away because it further drew attention to the Hong Kong protests. And on top of that, it's bad for business for China. Like just from
if China never brought up this tweet from Daryl Morey, how much more attention did they call to this problem otherwise, than if they just let that slide?
Infinitely more attention. Okay. Catherine, what's your worst narrative?
Wow. I mean, there's just so much to unpack with what was just said.
Yeah. Sorry. You know what? You don't have to change the subject if you want to hop in.
No, it's not. It's just like, I feel like sports is like a place where like nobody involved wants anyone to be political ever, because then it breaks up the idea or the facade that this is like a thing that brings people together, and this is like one of the last frontiers where like people sort of leave their political ideals aside and just like root for a team. Like there's just so much political within sports that like you could get into that people just don't, because there's too much money being made, and there's no pressure on anyone to have like a strong political stance. Like there's no pressure on Shaq to have a real stance on like this Daryl Morey tweet. Like, and I believe ESPN was specifically told not to address it.
Yeah.
Like it was places like The Ringer that were covering it more than anyone. So I don't know. It's like we could have a whole bonus episode about sports and politics.
Totally.
Yeah. Now to actually change the subject, do you have a narrative?
So narrative. I don't know if this is like a narrative or if I only heard it in one place and got a little fumed,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's probably...
I think, so basically the narrative is that Kawhi left the Raptors and joined a better team.
Ooh, Freddie has a lot to say about this narrative.
I do. I mean, I very much disagree with it. I feel like we also have direct evidence that that's not true from last night. But yeah, so,
100%. I think because it's like, once again, like I just feel like in this last week there's been such major classic examples of how little America is watching the Raptors, and we've touched on it a bit in this episode already when like I talked about like the Lakers and the Clippers not even scouting for our team, or like now like load management is like this big issue, and like nobody gave a shit last year when we were doing it. They were just like, oh, that's interesting, and now everybody has this like strong stance, and it's like literally the exact same thing, just like nobody is watching us. And I feel like I mean I think it used to bother me more, but now I'm like, yeah, good, don't watch us, we'll just beat you, like that's fine.
just
to be
add
fair, you just kind of did the exact same thing you're accusing them doing to the Raptors to the Phoenix Suns about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, fair. But I just Googled the Phoenix Suns, and I only know Devin Booker and Ricky Rubio, who I have no idea was playing for the Suns now.
He's killing it.
Fair enough.
Literally don't know any of these other players.
Wait, and just to confirm your point, Cathryn, when I was watching the Lakers game and we kind of started taking over, the commentator said, this is a team. They're more than just Kawhi. Guys like Terrence Davis, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, they won a championship with the Raptors last year. And he actually said that. And I was like, oh, man, that kind of sucks that you really don't know that they're new additions to the team.
Right.
And you think
that
they
you specifically said two of the only players you could have possibly said in this situation have been wrong.
Because they were playing at the time, and I think it just seemed like a flow, like an ebb and flow thing that he wanted to do. I mean, they also really, really messed up the pronunciation of Scoriolo, who I think I just messed up, and Nate Bjorken, which is also pretty hard. But
I don't fault them for that. I don't know.
Okay,
if we can't know how to pronounce it.
But it's not. We don't. It's not like what we do for like a living, and it's like the only thing we do.
And you gotta listen. Go if you have League Pass. Go back for Nate's name. They give up halfway through. The guy goes Nate Bjorken. Oh man. Sorry.
Okay, I will watch one.
He doesn't do that. But.
I will watch one Phoenix Suns game, so I'm not a complete hypocrite.
Okay, here.
Will this happen when the Raptors play Phoenix whenever the next game is?
Yeah.
Well, to go back to the super quick, to go back to the initial statement of is the Raptors roster or the Clippers roster stronger? I do want to see what they look like when they have Paul George, because I mean, Paul George was third place in MVP voting last year. He's a huge part of what they're going to be doing, no doubt. He's 28. He's in his prime. I know he's coming off of 2 shoulder surgeries, but historically, shoulder surgeries haven't impacted players really coming back from. So let's wait and see, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a bit honestly even though I talk about this team's a contender, that team's not a contender. I really do think the best thing to do for this year is to kind of have a wait and see approach on the league. I think we're not going to know too much until about 30 games in, because I think the Clippers, I want to see them with George and Kawhi for a month. I want to see if the Rockets are just going to get better and better and better and better from here, or what, you know what I mean? And kind of what injuries take place. But are you two ready for my narrative?
Yeah.
Oh. I just wanted to very quickly preface with saying that I know my take is a Homer, very biased take, but also I just Paul George is obviously going to do a lot for the Clippers, but I don't think he's going to do more for the Clippers than Kyle Lowry, Serge Ibaka, and OG Anunoby do for us, and I'm going to stay a Homer and watch one Phoenix Suns game. Thank you.
I like it. Okay.
That is completely fair. I have nothing to say to that.
So here's my, I don't think really necessary take, but I'm going to throw down. I've just been hearing it my whole life, and I feel like it's probably the easy answer maybe is that it's a weird racial, slightly racist thing. That doesn't make sense. But it's this idea that basketball players are bad fighters. And not that I'm I love fighting. But when the Embiid and Towns fight happened, my Twitter feed was filled with how Chara could beat them up. And it was so weird. It's such a weird, false, obvious thing that this idea that basketball players are weak or not good at fighting because in another sport they're allowed to fight while they're on skates. Matt Duncan, I know you're a hardcore hockey fan, so I'm sure you see this take a lot, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that any maybe some specialist type of Ong Bak style fighter in the NHL could beat up Embiid, but probably not.
You know what I mean? Style fighter. The classic NHL archetype of Ong Bak.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like maybe there's a guy out there where it's like, okay, fair enough. Embiid can beat up everyone, but Mitch Marner is actually like on that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, no one can beat up Embiid. Did you see those punches he threw after the fight?
Yeah, they were great. It was like shadow boxing thing.
The shadow boxing? Sorry.
But yeah, that's just my. I've been hearing that my whole life that basketball players are weak, and it's like they're in a game where if they ever fight, the consequences are so massive, and that also has a whole racial history about how people don't really like seeing people of color fight on TV, and they don't get that pass.
And also, like, it's like if you punch someone on skates, you have like the give of a skate behind you in the ice to like soften that blow. If you like connect on a full punch on the floor, like it's devastating. Like, look at Rudy Tomjanovich. Like his face exploded 30 years ago when Kermit Washington punched him. I don't think there's ever been a punch that's been as devastating in NHL history.
I don't know about that.
I also encourage anyone, like, just back to your kind of like skate stuff and bow. I encourage anyone to watch a lacrosse fight because it's absolutely brutal, and they're fully standing on their feet, cocking their shoulders back, and just destroying each other's faces.
If you saw Serge Ibaka and Sidney Crosby in a boxing ring, who do you think you would put money on?
Right?
Like,
Matt, are we being sacrilegious here? Am I totally wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. You're definitely picking guys that aren't known to ever fight, too. So I'd say
okay. Yeah, I definitely. We've mentioned Crosby and Marner.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm cherry picking a bit here too. Okay. I don't know.
Domi then? Do you think Domi could take Shaquille O'Neal in a fight? Like,
yeah, I think.
Or do you think Shaquille O'Neal would just bop him on the top of the head like a stump until he's like through the mat? Like, come on.
Okay, I like how cartoonish this is, McCready. That's good stuff. Okay, I feel like I've done my narrative stuff. So, do you want to play a game?
That's a great narrative, by the way, Freddie. I like that one a lot.
Thank you. It's been there for a long time. Okay, but okay, you have to say yes. Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, what is this? Is it Saw?
Yeah, it's the start of Saw. Is that okay, Matt?
Wait, am I gonna be alive at the end of this podcast?
Everybody,
is there a reason why my room is filled with spiders right now?
Honestly, it's a Saw thing. You got to get into it. I clearly haven't watched enough Saw.
No, that's pretty much what he says. Yeah. It's a Saw thing. You got to get into it.
Yeah, I assume he's really nice, like, despite everything. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I know we're all at home, and we have computers, but I ask you to not cheat. Right. It's early in the season, and I had a look at the top scorers in the league, and I find it pretty interesting. Some new, some old, and I want to see if between the two of you, if you could guess the top 10 scorers.
Oh, no, I'm not playing fantasy right now, so I'm screwed. But yeah, I'll try.
Top 10 scorers. Sorry, I missed it. Top 10 scorers.
Yeah, it's just you two taking turns guessing the top 10 scorers in the league.
Question: is this like total points or points per game?
Let's do points per correct selection.
Pardon?
Wait.
Points per correct. What does that mean? Like,
so every time you select a player that's in the top 10, you get a point.
Okay, but I mean, like, are we going with like total points scored by players or points per game by the players for? Top 10?
Sorry. Points per game by the players.
Okay, great. Should I go first or?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are we going back and forth or?
Let's go back and forth. Matt, I don't know if you have any suspenseful music. If you don't, that's okay.
Some suspenseful.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the NBA is a game played on a hardwood floor. I'm gonna have to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
That's right. Giannis Antetokounmpo is fourth in scoring at 29.7 points a game.
That's insane. That's fourth, but yeah, go on.
Cathryn.
Let's go James Harden.
Correct. James Harden is first. He's currently averaging 37.3 points a game.
Oh, wow.
My God.
McCready?
Okay, so I'm gonna. Oh, do I go or is it Matt?
No,
well, Matt,
no.
Okay, Matt's not in. McCready, it's you.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go with Damian Lillard.
Correct. Damian Lillard is number 2 behind James Harden. It's a pretty significant gap. He's 33 points a game.
Wow.
Whoa.
Cathryn? No wrong answers yet.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis, correct. Anthony Davis is 7th in the league.
Ooh.
He's averaging 26.6 points a game.
Okay.
McCready?
I'm gonna have to go with. Oh, he had a rough one against the Clip, but I'm gonna have to go with my man Pascal Siakam.
Yes. Pascal comes in at number 8. He's currently averaging 26.3 points a game. Okay. Cathryn's, there's only a couple left.
I'm gonna go Kyrie Irving.
Yes,
Oh.
Kyrie Irving.
That's a good.
We have
guess.
all top 4 now. Kyrie Irving is averaging 30 points on the dot.
Wow.
Okay, I'm looking at it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys left. No wrong answers yet.
Oh, I feel like we're gonna get one coming up. I'm feeling pretty blank over here.
It's gonna get hard now, I think.
Yeah, I bet there's weird ones. I mean, if you didn't follow Toronto really well, you'd be really thrown by the Siakam selection. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna try it. I don't feel great about it. Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook is not on there. Correct. Okay, Cathryn, it's your chance to take the lead.
Oh. Okay, here's a risky one.
Okay.
What about our old friend Kawhi Leonard?
Yes.
That was my next one.
Ooh.
Kawhi Leonard he's 6th in scoring at 26.9 points a game. Okay, Matt, there's still some guys on there. There's 3 more guys.
Ooh.
Or
Does Curry qualify?
Curry does not qualify.
Okay, then I won't pick Curry. I'll go with Joel Embiid.
Joel Embiid is also not on the list.
Oh my God. Son of a.
Really?
There's 3 guys. 3 guys left.
Okay. I messed up his name earlier. Let's go with Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh, another
Towns,
good answer.
so close. Towns
No.
is he's like 14th. It looks like.
Oh, okay. That's crazy.
McCready, this is. I'll give you each three wrong answers. So McCready, this is your last chance.
All right, we talked about him a little earlier. Doncic.
Doncic, yes, number 5 in scoring.
Luka
Doncic is number 5. What did I say? He's 28.3 points a game. Okay, Cathryn, two more dudes left.
Okay.
You have 1 strike.
Is it Kemba Walker?
Incorrect. That's your 2nd strike. Okay, McCready, it's back to you. It's 2 more guys.
I feel bad about it, but I'm gonna say Trae Young.
Wow, Matt, you got it. He's number 10.
Wow.
Yes.
Trae Young is 26.3 points a game. Cathryn,
Yeah.
you have 1 more chance here. This one's pretty hard. My clue is that it's hard.
It's hard?
Yeah,
So think
actually,
of,
here's
like,
my clue.
Damian Stone. Is that what you're meaning? Like, is it hard? The clue?
Yeah, it's hard the clue. No. Think about
Okay.
injuries. I'll say that.
Think about injuries.
Yeah, who's had more responsibility because of injuries?
Okay,
Oh, I know
hold
what it is.
on. I'm following. Hold on. Give me a sec.
Are you? You should just look it
wait,
up.
no. Oh, wait. Brandon Ingram?
Wow, that is a wonderful guess. Ingram is number 12.
Oh my god.
She had it with Ingram. I was like, that was such a smart guess.
Oh.
That, yeah, like when I saw him on the list, I couldn't believe it. Okay, Matt, you one more try here. Or McCready, sorry.
I thought we were done after that.
If they don't get it, I'll take the last guess.
Stopped thinking altogether. Teams in the league. Oh, maybe I'll just go with someone really kind of dumb.
I want to guess somebody else.
You know what? I passed the cap. Yeah, I pass.
Okay, that's hilarious.
We are breaking
Cathryn?
the rules of this game entirely.
We've both guessed the same amount so far.
Is it Bradley Beal?
Beal is number 11.
Oh my god.
Okay, Matt Duncan.
Yeah.
I feel like you got a guess. Hit me.
This might be nuts, but is it Russell, D'Angelo Russell?
It is.
Oh.
Russell is number 8. He's averaging 26.3 points a game.
Yeah, good for him. He's having a fairy tale season.
He really is, yeah. Okay. Let's do these last quickish questions and skedaddle, shall we?
Right.
That was a lot of
Sound
fun,
good?
Freddie. Good job.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
a fun one.
Fun game. Okay, Matt, why don't you give me that quickish question sting?
Quickish Questions!
What?
Revis.
Okay. I need to know what's a sound effect and what's McCready just being funny.
Little family sting.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do these quickish,
Really threw you
these
off.
quickish questions, shall we?
Oh shit!
What's that?
That was the Hunger Games cannon. Sorry.
Okay. Fair enough. Thanks for firing off a cannon, Matt. I appreciate that, I guess. But we got some quickish questions to get through. You all know how this game works. You just need to answer as fast as you can, and I will try and read the questions as clearly as I can, but honestly, no guarantees. Just make sure, don't phone a friend.
Don't phone a friend.
You ready, Matt?
Yep.
You ready, McCready?
Yep.
You ready, Cathryn?
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's start with Cathryn. Is Kawhi so afraid of OG he clawed him on purpose?
Yes.
Correct answer. McCready, rank best
Yes.
to worst in three-point shooting. JJ Redick, Kyle Korver, Matt Thomas.
Ooh. I've established that Matt Thomas is the best. I think that Redick is most versatile in ways he's able to get it off, like off the dribble and stuff. And Korver is the tallest, so he can shoot over the most people.
Okay. Matt,
Yeah.
are the Grammarly adverts on YouTube the most annoying thing on the internet? Answer the question.
I'm gonna say that they're up there for sure, but there's got to be something more annoying, right?
I've never seen
Yeah.
them.
Freddie, have you?
Yeah, they're pretty annoying. Honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you, Matt, in that like there's just a lot of annoying things in general
Yeah, that's
on the internet, so fair enough.
But obviously,
But,
someone's irked by them. Whoever asked that, so
Yeah, it's pretty upset. Okay, Cathryn.
Yep.
Stanley Johnson hasn't contributed much on the floor up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Is it time to move on from him? If so, who should we sign off the trash heap, and why is it Melo?
Is it time to move on from him? Like, do we even have that luxury right now?
We don't.
Yeah,
He's
I don't
player
think.
option for next year, so like we have to eat that next year's salary if we do.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, I'm all for signing Melo to a 10-day. Maybe Americans will actually watch one of our games.
Oh, they signed Melo, but he's like load managing. What the hell?
They signed Melo and he's playing point guard?
Yeah.
Okay, McCready.
Yeah.
Steady Freddy equals All-Star 2020. Your thoughts?
No, probably not. I love Fred. I just don't think he's. I don't know, who are the guards in the East that would get the slot? You'd probably put Irving in front of him. Probably Kemba. I mean, it's possible.
Butler's
I
a forward.
He's a
if Lowry
forward.
comes back pretty soon, like I'd definitely put Lowry before. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know if he can kind of like finish well enough in the 2-point range to kind of get there. Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Also, he's more of like a player who's great at winning as opposed to like an all-star type of player. It's like I wouldn't get excited about Fred VanVleet being in the all-star game like I would someone who can kind of do more outrageous athletic things. So I'd say no.
Fair. Okay, Matt. Last question.
Oh boy.
Who would you like to poke in the eye? It can be NBA or non-NBA.
Wow, that's such a vicious thing to do. But if I had to pick someone, because I heard this little rumor that jumped up again, I want to poke James Dolan in the eye.
Boom.
Because
that's a good
as
one.
if we have to hear these Masai rumors again that he's going to take a run at Masai. Poke him in the eye, sit down, play your guitar.
I love how your version of poking someone in the eye is you sit them down. That's
He
good.
helps them out.
They can still play guitar after.
Yeah. Just focus on the music, James.
Okay, buddies. I think that's
Who
it
would
for
you
the pod.
poke? Who would you poke, Freddie?
That's a good one. I mean, I gotta poke Doug Ford in the eye, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
that's a good one.
Duggo?
Do we all poke Don Cherry in the eye?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Don
his eyes
Cherry
are probably
got poked
so
in the eye.
gross though.
Yeah. Oh my god, imagine
Like I'd
if you
poke Putin in the eye. That would be funny.
What if you poked what if you poked Don Cherry in the eye and then that's when you realize that his eyes are grapes. Okay, on that very absurdist, weird, I think bad joke. Let's wrap this thing
I'd
up.
poke him in the eye and steal a blazer. Why not?
Okay, I like that you're add depth to the mix.
I would love to see Cathryn in one of Don Cherry's dress shirts for sure.
Okay, Cathryn, why don't you tell all the listeners where to find you, all that good stuff.
You can find me on the internet at it's me _Cathryn. Feel free to follow. I spell my name weird, so good luck.
Nice. Are you doing any shows or anything coming up that people should go to?
Oh yeah, I got some shows. Let me get out of my boss's calendar and look at my own. What am I doing? I'm performing at Absolute next week on Tuesday. That'll be cool. I'm hosting for a comedian named James Adelman at Comedy Bar next week Saturday on the 23rd. Should be a fun time.
Sweet.
Wow, what happened?
Fred? Is Fred gone?
Fred?
We might have lost Freddie. Should I just plug my things?
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
Give
Fred's
your
really,
give your
Fred's
your
really
stuff a
mad
plug.
at my shows.
Yeah, I'm performing with Nate Bjorgen
Oh, my God.
all week long. No, I'm
The
me and Freddie are
business.
the business. Yeah, we're doing our taxes, and then we're going to do some comedy. Yeah, I do a weekly show at the Social Capital Theater called $15 Beer Comedy Show. It's $15. You get 2 tall cans. It's a lot of fun. And
Nice.
for the whole family, as long as your whole family are adults. Yep,
What
that's all.
weekday?
Sorry?
What weekday?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Friday nights at 9:30 at the Social
Okay.
Capital Theater.
There you go.
Perfect.
Freddie is hosting this podcast every week.
Yeah, he's
And scrambling for his microphone probably as we speak.
yeah.
Yeah, Freddie, remember the Confederacy of Dunks podcast has some hats for sale.
Yeah, thanks,
And with
guys.
every hat, they tell you what you can do with it.
Yeah, there you go.
If you've never heard of hats before, here are things you can do while wearing a hat.
Sign up for their Patreon to get the full list.
Okay.
Kevin Dowse is now a lawyer, I think. I don't think he's associated with the podcast anymore.
Only legally.
Yeah, only legally.
Their legal representation.
Yeah, if you're looking for a lawyer, if you're getting a divorce, please call Diamond and ask for Kevin Dowse.
Okay, guys. Well, Freddie's gone, so we'll just cut you loose. We'll just cut you loose at this point. Thanks for doing the pod, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.